Once upon a time in ancient Greece, there lived a young man named Aristotle. Aristotle was a curious and introspective person, always questioning the world around him and trying to understand its mysteries. One day he heard about a philosopher named Socrates who was known for his wisdom and his ability to engage in deep and meaningful conversations about the nature of reality. Aristotle was intrigued, and he decided to seek out Socrates and learn from him. He found Socrates in the marketplace, surrounded by a group of students and admirers, listening intently to his words. Aristotle approached him and asked if he could join the group and listen to the conversation. Socrates welcomed him and asked him what he wanted to learn. Aristotle replied that he wanted to understand the nature of reality and how we can know what is true and real. Socrates smiled and said, "Ah, you want to know about the forms." Aristotle was puzzled. "Forms?" he asked. "Yes," Socrates replied. "The forms, or ideas as some call them. They are the eternal and unchanging realities that exist beyond the physical world we experience with our senses." Aristotle was intrigued. He had never heard of such a thing before. Socrates explained further. "You see, Aristotle, the physical world we see around us is a world of change and impermanence. Everything we see, touch, and experience is in a constant state of flux. But the forms, they are different. They are eternal and unchanging, and they are the true reality." Aristotle was skeptical. "But how can we know about these forms if they exist beyond the physical world? How can we experience them?" Socrates smiled again. "That, my dear Aristotle, is the question that has puzzled philosophers for centuries. But I believe that we can know about the forms through reason and understanding. You see, the forms are the true essence of things. They are what make a chair, a table, a person, and we can understand them by using our reason to think about what makes these things what they are." Aristotle was starting to understand. "So if I think about what makes a chair, I can understand the form of the chair." "Exactly," Socrates replied. "And not only that, but you can also understand the forms of beauty, justice, goodness, and all the other abstract concepts that exist beyond the physical world." Aristotle was fascinated. He had never thought about the world in this way before. "But why do we need to know about the forms? What's the point?" Socrates looked at him intently. "Because, my dear Aristotle, the forms are the key to understanding the true nature of reality. They are what give our lives meaning and purpose, and by understanding them, we can live a life that is true and authentic." Aristotle nodded slowly, taking in Socrates' words. He realized that he had a lot to learn, and he decided to become a student of Socrates and study the nature of reality further. Over the years, Aristotle learned much from Socrates and other philosophers who came after him. He studied the works of Plato, who had expanded on Socrates' ideas and written extensively about the forms. He read about the allegory of the cave, where Plato had used a powerful metaphor to explain the nature of reality and how we can come to understand it. Aristotle also studied the works of Aristotle, who had criticized Plato's ideas and developed his own theories about the nature of reality. He learned about the concept of substance and accident, and how Aristotle believed that everything in the world was made up of matter and form. As Aristotle continued to study the works of philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, he realized that understanding the nature of reality was not only intellectually stimulating, but also could be incredibly entertaining. He loved engaging in debates with other philosophers and challenging their ideas, and he also enjoyed reading stories and myths that explored the nature of reality in creative and imaginative ways. One of his favorite stories was the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur. This myth told the tale of a hero, Theseus, who ventured into a dark and treacherous labyrinth to slay the fearsome Minotaur, a monstrous creature with the head of a bull and the body of a man. Aristotle saw this myth as a metaphor for the journey of the human soul. The labyrinth represented the physical world, with all its twists and turns and obstacles, and the Minotaur represented the fears and doubts that can plague us as we navigate through life. But the hero Theseus, with his courage and his determination, showed that it was possible to overcome these challenges and emerge victorious. And in doing so, he demonstrated the power of the human spirit and its ability to transcend the limitations of the physical world. Ariston also loved reading the works of playwrights like Sophocles and Euripides, who used their art to explore the deepest questions of human existence. He was particularly drawn to plays like Oedipus Rex and Medea, which dealt with themes like fate, free will, and the nature of the gods. He saw these plays as a kind of philosophical laboratory, where ideas could be tested and explored in a dramatic and entertaining way. And he believed that by engaging with these works of art, he could deepen his understanding of the nature of reality and the human experience. But Ariston was not content to simply study philosophy and art. He also wanted to put his ideas into practice and make a difference in the world. He became involved in politics and worked to promote justice and equality for all citizens. He also started a school where he taught philosophy and encouraged his students to think for themselves and question the world around them. And in doing so, he demonstrated that the study of the nature of reality was not simply an intellectual pursuit, but also a practical one. By applying the insights and ideas he had learned, Ariston was able to make a real difference in the lives of others and leave a lasting legacy that would be remembered for generations to come. As Ariston continued his philosophical journey, he began to explore the ideas of other famous philosophers who had also pondered the nature of reality. He sought out their teachings and debated with them, eager to gain a deeper understanding of this complex topic. One of the philosophers he encountered was Aristotle, who had been a student of Plato. Aristotle believed that reality was not just a matter of what we perceive with our senses, but also of what we can understand through our intellect. He believed that everything in the world had a purpose or a function, and that by understanding that purpose, we could understand the true nature of reality. Another philosopher that Ariston came across was René Descartes. Descartes was a French philosopher who lived in the 17th century, long after Plato and Aristotle. Descartes famously declared, "Cogito, ergo sum," I think, therefore I am. He believed that the only thing he could be sure of was his own existence, and that everything else in the world could be doubted. Descartes believed that the only way to find certainty was through the use of reason and logic, and that the physical world was secondary to the world of ideas. Ariston also studied the ideas of Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher who lived in the 18th century. Kant believed that reality was not just a matter of what we perceive with our senses, or what we can understand with our intellect. He believed that reality was shaped by our own minds and our own perceptions. He argued that there were certain categories of thought that were necessary for us to make sense of the world, and that these categories were built into our minds from birth. But despite these different perspectives, Ariston kept returning to the teachings of Plato. He found himself drawn to the idea of the forms, the idea that there was a perfect ideal version of every object in the physical world. He believed that the physical world was just a shadow of the true reality that existed beyond our senses. As Ariston continued to study and debate, he began to realize that there was no one right answer when it came to the nature of reality. Each philosopher had their own unique perspective, and each had contributed something valuable to the conversation. In the end, Ariston came to the conclusion that the nature of reality was something that could never be fully understood or grasped. It was a mystery that would continue to inspire philosophers and thinkers for centuries to come. But he also believed that the pursuit of truth and understanding was a noble and worthwhile pursuit, and one that would continue to enrich his life for years to come.